I never thought the universe had a sense of humor this cruel. For 15 years, I built my life around helping people leave this world with dignity. As a hospice nurse, I'd sit with strangers in their final weeks, holding their hands, listening to their regrets, and offering whatever peace I could. I told myself I was good at it, that the pain I carried from my old life had been transformed into something useful, something that mattered. Then she arrived. Her name was Margaret Whitmore. And the moment I saw her chart, my stomach dropped like I'd stepped off a cliff. Margaret Whitmore, 68 years old, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, former executive at a pharmaceutical company, no family listed. The same Margaret Whitmore who, 20 years earlier, had destroyed everything I loved. I stood outside her room for a long time that first morning, chart in my hands, heart hammering against my ribs. Through the small window in the door, I could see her lying there. Small, frail, skin like old paper. Nothing like the sharp, elegant woman I remembered. The woman who once smiled at me across boardroom tables while quietly sharpening the knife. I almost walked away. Almost told my supervisor I couldn't take the case. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the oath I'd taken. Maybe it was the part of me that still wondered if people like her ever felt regret. Or maybe I just needed to see how the story ended. So I walked in. She was awake, staring at the ceiling with those same piercing blue eyes. When she turned her head and saw me, something flickered across her face. Recognition. Then something deeper. Fear, maybe. Or shame. "Hello, Margaret," I said softly, keeping my voice steady like I did with every other patient. "I'm Daniel. I'll be your primary nurse during your stay with us." She didn't speak for almost a minute. Just looked at me, her thin chest rising and falling with effort. "Daniel," she whispered finally. Her voice was nothing like I remembered. It used to cut through rooms like a blade. Now it was paper thin. Of all the people, I busied myself checking her IV, adjusting the morphine drip, pretending my hands weren't shaking. "How are you feeling today?" She let out a weak, bitter laugh that turned into a cough. Like a woman who's finally getting what she deserves. That was the first time I felt it, the strange mixture of satisfaction and sickness in my chest. I hated that part of myself. I'd spent years trying to kill it. That night, after my shift, I sat in my car in the parking lot and let the memories flood back. 20 years ago, I was 28 and thought I had the world by the throat. Fresh out of nursing school, I landed a dream job at one of the top pharmaceutical research companies. Not as a researcher. They hired me to manage clinical trials, to be the bridge between the science and the patients. I believed in the work. I believed we were saving lives. Margaret was my boss. Brilliant, charismatic, 15 years older than me. She took me under her wing, mentored me, made me feel like I was special. Looking back, I was young and stupid and flattered by the attention. Then came the clinical trial for what was supposed to be a groundbreaking heart medication. I noticed irregularities in the data, side effects that were being downplayed. I brought my concerns to Margaret. She told me not to worry, said she'd handle it. 3 weeks later, a patient died. Then another. I couldn't stay silent. I went over her head, reported what I'd found. I thought I was doing the right thing. I had no idea she'd been doctoring the numbers for months. That millions of dollars were riding on those trials. That her bonuses, her reputation, her entire future depended on that drug getting to market. So she did what powerful people do. She destroyed me. False reports. Backdated emails. Witnesses who suddenly remembered me behaving erratically. She even suggested I'd been stealing medication for personal use. The investigation was swift and brutal. I lost my license for 2 years. My reputation was shredded across the industry. My fiancé left me, saying she couldn't be with someone who would risk patients' lives. I lost everything. My career. My future. My sense of who I was. And Margaret? She got a promotion. The drug was quietly pulled later, but by then she'd moved on to another company with a golden parachute. I spent years rebuilding from nothing, working odd jobs, fighting to get my license back, learning to live with the anger that followed me like a shadow. And now, here she was, dying in my care. The next few days were strange. Margaret barely spoke at first. She would watch me as I worked changing her sheets, giving her medication, helping her to the bathroom when the pain got bad. There was a tension in the room so thick it felt like fog. On the fourth day, she broke the silence. "You must hate me," she said quietly while I adjusted her oxygen. I paused. "I'm here to make you comfortable, Margaret. That's all that matters now." That's not what I asked. I looked at her then. Really looked. The cancer had hollowed her out. Her once sharp cheekbones were prominent in a different, tragic way. Her hair was gone. She looked small, breakable. "I did hate you," I admitted. "For a long time." She nodded slowly, like she'd expected that. "I thought about you sometimes. Over the years." "Did you?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "I told myself you were just collateral damage. That business is business. That someone always has to lose." She closed her eyes. I was very good at lying to myself. I didn't know what to say to that, so I stayed quiet and finished my tasks. But as I was leaving, she spoke again. "I'm sorry, Daniel." I stopped at the door but didn't turn around. Those 3 words felt like they'd been dragged out of her with hooks. I walked out without responding. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the man I was before her. The man who believed in doing the right thing. The man who lost everything because of it. And the man I became afterward, someone who chose to sit with the dying because maybe, just maybe, I could prevent some of the loneliness I'd felt in my darkest days. The following week, Margaret began to deteriorate rapidly. The pain became constant. Her mind started to wander. Sometimes she thought I was her father. Sometimes she called me by her ex-husband's name. But there were moments of clarity too. Moments that cut deep. One afternoon, as rain pattered against the window, she told me the rest of the story. "I was terrified back then," she whispered. "My husband had left me. I had nothing. This promotion, it was supposed to save me. I was willing to do anything to keep it, even destroy a good man." I sat beside her bed listening. "You were good, Daniel. Too good. That's why I chose you. The others would have kept quiet. But you actually cared about those patients." A tear slipped down her wrinkled cheek. "I hated you for that. For being better than me." Her breathing grew labored. I adjusted her medication, watching as the morphine eased the lines of pain from her face. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she continued. "I don't deserve it. But I need you to know, watching you care for me these past days, it's the closest thing to justice I've ever experienced. Not because you're cruel, but because you're kind. Even to me." Something inside my chest cracked open at those words. I thought about all the nights I'd spent fantasizing about this moment, about confronting her, making her suffer. But now that it was here, all I felt was tired. And strangely, sad. "You're not the only one who made mistakes," I said finally. "I let what you did define me for too long. I became bitter. I pushed people away. Maybe I needed to learn how to let go too." She reached out a trembling hand. After a moment, I took it. Her skin was cold and fragile, like dry leaves. "I'm scared," she admitted in the smallest voice I'd ever heard. "I don't want to die alone." "You're not alone," I told her. And for the first time in 20 years, I meant it without resentment. The last days were the hardest. Margaret slipped in and out of consciousness. I stayed with her longer than my shifts required. I read to her from the worn paperback she kept by her bed. I played soft music when the pain was bad. I talked to her about my life now, about the wife I'd eventually found, the daughter I had, the peace I'd made with my broken past. On her final morning, the room was quiet except for the gentle beep of monitors. I sat beside her, holding her hand like I'd held so many others. Her eyes fluttered open one last time. She looked at me with surprising clarity. "Thank you," she breathed, "for being the man I couldn't be." I squeezed her hand gently. Rest now, Margaret. It's okay. You can let go. She smiled faintly. The same smile I remembered from 20 years ago, but softer now. Stripped of everything false. Her breathing slowed, became shallow, and then peacefully. It stopped. I sat there for a long time afterward, just holding her hand. The woman who had once ruined my life had just left this world under my care. And somehow, in the strangest twist of fate, we had both been set free. I walked out of that room different than I walked in, lighter. The anger I'd carried for 2 decades was finally gone. Not because she deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Life has a way of circling back on itself, of forcing us to face the people who hurt us most, not for revenge, but for healing. Margaret Whitmore taught me that. In the end, she gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever: myself.